And the first question would be, does internet needs to be regulated at all?
Well, yes. I mean, internet is part of society, and of course, society is regulated. But we should regulate when we regulate the internet. We should keep in mind the principles that we have in other parts of society. That is, the respect for privacy and respect for due process and respect for information freedom, etc. I mean, those fundamental rights must apply to the internet, just like they do outside the net.
So can you tell me specifically what would you regulate and how would you regulate?
Well, I would want to make it absolutely clear that the internet has the same status as telephones or letters sent by ordinary post, so that it should be completely illegal for the police or for private companies to break the postal secret on the internet as well, unless it's been decided by a court, unless you're talking about really serious crimes.
What is your opinion about the rights of the authors?
We definitely need copyright reform. I mean, that is one of the biggest conflicts, or perhaps the biggest conflict that the internet has given rise to. It used to be, up until some 15 years ago, before the internet, then it used to be that copyright was strictly a business-to-business regulation. No private citizen had any reason to worry about copyright, because everything you could do or wanted to do as a private citizen was either completely illegal, or at least nobody ever got prosecuted for it. So you could record a song from the radio, you could borrow an LP from a friend and record it, you could make photocopies out of books, etc. Everything that normal people had technical capability to do was legal. But then suddenly, when the internet came around and ordinary people got new fantastic technical possibilities, then the copyright lobby managed to transform copyright into something that every teenager has to worry about every single day of his life. And copyright legislation was never designed for that. It used to be business-to-business legislation. It's tremendously complex, tremendously expensive. I mean, most normal teenagers don't even have an in-house legal department. So we need to get copyright back to where it makes sense, so that it only regulates commercial activities, things with commercial intent. And then in addition, we need to shorten the protection times and do various other things. But the most important and most controversial part is we need to scale copyright back so that it only covers commercial activities.
What is your opinion, or how do you evaluate the idea about paying the internet at all?
I mean, everybody pays for the internet access, and that's perfectly normal. That's the way it should be. But the internet is, access to the internet is a fundamental right, in the sense, it's a negative fundamental right. It says in the European Convention of Human Rights, in Article 10, that everybody has the right to receive and impart information without interference by authorities and regardless of frontiers. Unfortunately, that is not being respected on the internet, and I think that's because politicians don't see the internet as part of society, which they should. So we need to get the respect for the fundamental rights back on the internet, so that nobody gets shut off from the internet, because that is completely unacceptable. If you're not in prison, the authorities should not be allowed to block your internet access.
How to make the balance between the freedom and security on the internet? Do you have any ideas how to establish this balance, or between the security?
Well, it's important to remember that the European Union is built on the freedoms. So when we're talking about balance, it always has to be in that context. How do we protect those freedoms? So there should be a free flow of information. Everybody should have the right to privacy, private communication, the right to be anonymous, because that's an important part of an open society as well, that you're allowed to express controversial ideas anonymously. And unfortunately, things have been moving in a different direction, and we need to reverse that trend.
So does the following of the downloads breach the right of the privacy?
Yes, and that's a very central point to understand. I'm very glad you made it. Because file sharing, which is against copyright law, file sharing is an activity that takes place between two individuals. Somebody sitting in a small town somewhere has a file that I don't want to, and then he agrees to send it to me. That's file sharing. The only way you can even try to stop or limit file sharing is to inspect everything that ordinary people send between themselves. And that's not acceptable. Again, going back to the European Convention of Human Rights, Article 8 says that everybody has the right to private correspondence. And that, of course, must apply to electronic correspondence as well. So, I mean, that is the core conflict. That we see very bad things happening, an erosion of our fundamental rights, simply because a few industries happen to be very good friends with the politicians, and they want to uphold the business model that's no longer relevant. If you look at there is research being carried out on this, academic research. If you look at revenues for the cultural sector for the last 10 years, and I mean, it was in 1999 that Napster came, so that's a good start year. If you look specifically at music, then you see that for the last 10 years, since 1999 till now, revenues for the music sector have been either constant or increased slightly with an increased standard of living. The big difference is that record sales have dropped dramatically. So revenues for the record companies have dropped by about 50%. But people are still spending as much money on music, which means the artists are getting more and the middlemen, the record companies, are getting less. So even from an economic point of view, file sharing is absolutely great for the artists in the music sector. If you look at other sectors, films, games, etc., then you see sales for the last 10 years have increased quite a lot. So the cultural sector is doing absolutely fine. It's only a few middlemen that no longer serve a purpose that are complaining. And they're holding all of us, all of our future hostage, because they are unable to adapt their business model, and that's not acceptable.
Do the authors who are against piratism on the internet, do they understand the future of the internet, or don't they understand? The authors?
No, I mean you're right. It is a fact that a lot of people in the cultural sector are very afraid of the new things that are happening. And I mean, in a way, that's understandable, because the internet is the biggest thing that has happened to humanity since the printing press. So I mean, things used to be one way, now they're changing quite dramatically. So it's natural that people are afraid of it, but we mustn't let this fear damage our society. So I would hope that people in the cultural sector, I mean, they have everything to gain from the new technology, and even if they don't, I mean, it is the new reality. So the only way to stay in business is to adapt to reality, and internet is part of that. And it has fantastic new opportunities, both from a cultural point of view and also financially for the small players, because the playing field is getting a bit more level now that everybody can do distribution and not just for big record companies.